Dude, how much is what's the price of? Chaylo.
Having way too much fun. What? Which one?
Entron.
Oh, yeah! What is that thing called? I have it.
Something crawler?
Magnetron crawler? Answers must be found. Welcome back. I am Captain Xavier, and we're here in my absolute favorite place in the world, Bricks and Wheels in Kent, Washington. If you're in this area and you like Legos, this is in fact the promised land. They have all sorts of new kits. They also have a lot of very, very old sets. Some as old as me, some older. Multi-core magnetizer. I have that set. You'd think I would know. Anyway, they're having their anniversary sale, so we're here taking shameless advantage of it. They have their enormous bin of Legos that you can just sift through and grab all the parts that you need, which is what I'm doing because I need parts for my castle. It is also a tradition for me and my friend. He makes a bad decision and buys some very large and expensive Lego set, and we stay up until God knows when in the morning building it. So you'll get to see that video in the near future. I love this place. Okay, so we're going to film the sorting of the bricks. We've already done most of one bag. We're going to do a second one. And then we're going to go see some movies, and we're probably going to stay up and regret everything we've ever done in our lives building some set. So stay tuned. Now for one of my favorite parts of acquiring new Legos, the sorting, because I'm that kind of a lunatic. Also, I have a date later today, and I'm nervous, and this helps calm me down. So, enjoy some time lapse! Somebody asked me if my Legos are sorted, and yes, I sort my Legos into generally 6 main categories. Bricks, plates, slopes, specialty plates, which are things like tiles and curved plates and weird things with hinges built into them. Specialty bricks, bricks with little clips on them, the weird arches, the weird log-looking things, and then other, which tends to be chairs and windows and Technic pieces and God knows what else, things that don't fit into any of these categories. So that's how I do it. All right, that's bag number 1. They will, of course, later be sorted by color and put into their bins. But on to the date. Welcome back. I am Captain Xavier, and I am doing another update on my castle. I'm going to be showing some of the things that I've changed since the last video. Plus, I'm going to show the area around the moat. Specifically, because I'm about to do a major overhaul on a section of it, and I want to have some before so that you can see the after, because I always forget to do things like that. So first, we'll take a look at the changes that have been made, and then we'll go to the outer buildings, and that'll probably be it. Onward! The first section I'm going to show is an area that is largely the result of fan recommendations. You'll notice there is now a crocodile in a little cave in this corner. I didn't point out this section when I did the underground because there really wasn't anything interesting about it, but there always was a little tunnel that just went under this corner of the tower. There wasn't any kind of a cave or anything under there. It was just kind of a little, the water went around and it was just a little pillar kind of stone. But somebody mentioned that I should have like a little dock in there so that somebody could go in with a boat and that it would lead into a cave, and I thought that was an absolutely fantastic idea. At first I didn't think it would fit anywhere, but then I realized that because of the way this corner was constructed and because there was nothing in that corner, it was in fact possible. So it took some modification, but we'll dig our way down. Oh jeez. Got power down. Okay. There's also now this room which has been filled in. I don't think there was anything in it before. Somebody mentioned that I should have a secret library, and they said I should put it down in the dungeons, but dungeons are dank and damp and not very good for libraries. So I decided that this room that is accessed through the secret door behind the altar in the chapel was the perfect place for a sneaky secret library. So you can see the scroll rack there, as well as a scroll with an ink pot and a little drink. And then, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it very well. Maybe I'll have to pull it out. A bookshelf. Full of books. So, yeah, that's the little sneaky library. This section of wall used to be connected to that part that came off, but it made it difficult to lift up this section because of the hinges here. They would get in the way when the part tried to come down. So I separated it so this one slides in and then the piece sits on top of it and it works much better. Now, underneath the library, if you look really carefully, you can see the hinged plate there that will normally be hidden by the chair. There is now a room directly below that, and I have no idea what's going to be down here. But it's another little secret room just because I realized that there was nothing under the base of that tower. So I decided to put something there. Haven't decided what will actually go there. And then this whole corner comes up, which it didn't used to. And now you can see the little dock that's inside this little waterway, as well as the cave. That, of course, has, you guessed it, a secret passageway that now leads into the tunnels that lead to both the wizard tower and the crypt. So this is, once again, why I love reading all of the comments that you guys send in, because I get ideas like this where I had either overlooked it entirely or had thought of it but then wrote it off as not an option, and then when people suggest things I rethink it and discover, oh yeah, no, I could totally do that. So two whole new rooms that didn't exist before, and I think that's pretty cool. So another thing that got some upgrades were the chapel itself. Not a major update, and probably I don't think this would have ever come up. But the door was not previously centered. It was off to one side, so it was 2 pegs further over. And it also opened out. The door is now open in. And the reason that this is significant, or the reason that this happened, was because of this wall section. It was previously the weakest part in the entire castle. And a serious issue, tactically speaking. Because the location of that doorway and the way that I originally had this little small section here, this portion of the wall just to the right of the bell tower was the thinnest part in the whole wall. It was the width of a single brick. And that was obviously, I mean, you could have just tunneled through that with a pickaxe in no time. And that was obviously tactically unsound. It is now every bit as thick as any other portion of the wall, a full 8 studs thick. It is still slightly thinner right there at the base of the bell tower itself, but it is still fairly stout, plus you have the whole weight of the tower above it. And the other thing that you couldn't get to is there was no way to get to this window as an archer. And now there is a little section there where an archer can stand on a little ladder so that they can get up there. So that was a fun little alteration, strengthening up a weak spot. That section has bugged me since I first built it. There's a couple of things that I might have done differently with the whole castle. I actually considered trying to shift the whole chapel over to studs, and that just was not really an option because of a whole mess of things. So instead, I decided to move that wall section out 2 spaces. So this one and that one used to line up, and now that one is further out, quite a bit further out actually, which really doesn't mess up the feng shui of the castle in my opinion, because the bell towers are still symmetrical, and it makes things line up in ways that they didn't before, and ultimately I'm very, very pleased with how it came out. So we will put all of this back together and move on with the tour. So the area around the moat, we saw that. In this corner, we have what appear to be ruins on a bit of rock outcropping. Kind of my take on, like, Weathertop, Amansul. You know, there used to be a tower here before the castle, or, you know, it was there in addition to the castle, but it is now a ruin. And if we move this tree so you can get a better look, the old staircase that leads to the top is, in fact, a secret passageway. The whole staircase slides over to reveal a door. And so there's a way in there. There is also a trapdoor on the top that can be opened up, and that is normally hidden by just a brick that's been lying around. And finally, there's one more trap or secret passageway, a section here that swings in. And this all leads into this fairly large cavernous section, which currently has a minotaur in it for no readily apparent reason that I can think of. But you can enter through here, through the roof, or through there. There's ladders on the inside. Eventually, this will be the hideout of the wolf pack, which is one of my favorite old castle factions. I got the foam shield from the wolf pack from a fan last week, which is just one of the coolest things any fan has ever sent me. That's what these guys are all about. That was their symbol, if it'll focus. Focus. It's not going to focus. Anyway, the wolf pack. And I waited most of my life for this to come out, the wargs from the Lord of the Rings series, and now my wolf pack can actually be riding wolves. That is a culmination of a childhood dream. So, that's what's in this corner. And we'll go all the way over to the other side now. And this is the section that is going to be getting a major overhaul. We have this little structure, which is a tree growing out of a rock outcropping, which opens up. Now, in reality, it wouldn't open up. That's just so that I can see to the inside. This is actually the secret passageway that allows you to get into it. This is based on a very old Lego set. It's actually the first specific Lego set I remember owning, but I don't ever remember getting it. I just always remember having the instructions and building it and rebuilding it and absolutely loving it. The little secret passageway I thought was totally cool. It has, of course, been severely updated. They didn't have the dark gray back then, so it would have been light gray. And they didn't have this much brown. This was all black back then. But I made it the dark gray to match the rock of the castle, and I used brown so it looks more like a real tree, but I do still have the original forestman crawling all over it, and I think that's pretty cool. Over here, we have a tomb, a burrow, if you will, like the Burrow Downs in Lord of the Rings. It is a very old tomb. It's been completely forgotten by everybody here. It has, I think that's a Nazgul, Ringwraith type character hidden in there, the Witch King, just because he was very ghosty. And this one's going to get raised up quite a bit, and as will, this won't be raised up, but the area around it will be raised up, and there will end up being a passageway leading between them. So that ought to be That's what I'm going to do as soon as I'm done with this video, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And then in the very back here, there is another section that is based on a very old Forestman set, the River Crossing, I think it was called. And it's just that. There's a little base plate that actually had a river printed on it, and a bridge and a little tower on one side and a tree on the other side. And this was a set that I always wanted as a kid and didn't get until I was much older. And I've, once again, made modifications to make it a little bit more solid and to make the color scheme fit. But I really like how it came out as well. And having the little creek there, that's also going to be raised up, so that will be more of a waterfall in the future. And there may be something behind it or under it, though I don't think it'll ever be that tall. And then there's just a blank section there that may eventually have something. I don't know. It's kind of hard to reach, so... this represents the beginning of a major overhaul of the moat. And I don't know how obvious it is going to be to you. But if you look at that section, where there's two different tones of tan and then going into a much more detailed slope as compared to that section, which is the original moat, which is a little bit more blocky, doesn't have nearly as much definition, and doesn't have the two colors. It's also not nearly as high. So this is eventually what it's going to look like all the way around the moat, or at least something similar to it. There may be extra sections that are more cliff-like, but it will definitely have the two tones of the sand and a higher section. The problem is, I don't have a whole lot of this darker tan yet. I need to acquire more of it. So I'll be hitting eBay probably and seeing if I can find any lots of it. So yeah, that I think is pretty much... Oh, one more major upgrade, and this is another one that's going to be hard to see, is the Portcullis on this side. If you look at the one here, it is an actual solid single piece. It's all one Lego brick, and it slides up and down very smoothly. And I saw a picture of this style done. They had actually done it in brown. I decided to do it in black, in reference to the old castles. They actually had portcullises that were made out of black bricks, and it's much more solid. I mean, it's full brick thick, and required a lot of parts. Let's open up the door. You might be able to get a better look at it then. Yeah, there we go. So you can see you can still see through it, but it's very, very, very solid. And the winch in the top of the tower will still raise it. And it's got spikes, and there's holes in the floor for the spikes to go into, so it comes down very smoothly. However, the design is such that it won't lower on its own anymore. You have to actually force it down manually, which is obviously very counterintuitive to a Portcullis, but it locks down, and I really like how it came out. I will eventually try to do it also on the one up front, but that's going to be a lot more difficult because for this one, the floor underneath was completely solid, so it was easy to do that spike strip. But the one on this side, as you know, there's a dungeon down there, so I might be able to make it work, but it's going to be a lot more work. But yeah, okay, so that I think is all the major updates to this section of my castle. Other minor details, this corner section and the staircases involved were recently completely changed. Previously the doorway to here was accessed through this staircase, but since I raised up the whole keep, it didn't work anymore, so I had to shift it over and make a new staircase, which now matches the one on the other side of the door, and I actually really like how it came out, and I'm much happier with that. That little corner will eventually be where the fighting Eric is. Well, here is the outcome, and I am well pleased with it. Lots of interior details still to do, but I have swapped the place of the two features, and as you can see, I have raised up the base to have a whole underground that wasn't there before. This used to be on ground level, but it now has a cave underneath it, and we will go into the features. From starting at the very front, there is the Crypt with the Lich in it. At least that's what I'm assuming he is, some kind of a Lich. Those of you who are familiar with D&D know what a Lich is. Those of you who aren't, as an example, Voldemort was more or less a Lich. So, super powerful undead, and this is where he's been entombed for whatever reason. His little tomb connects to a larger one, another little mini crypt, very similar to the one that's under the chapel temple type thing. And there is a door here, not really a secret door so much as just a door that leads into his little chamber. And from inside the crypt, this isn't much of a secret door. It's more of a secret door from the other side. So the people who built this crypt knew that there was a tunnel there, but that fact has been lost in time. So the poor forestmen that have inhabited this little cave don't know that. So the upstairs hasn't really changed much at all. There were some minor structural changes to the floor, obviously. I don't know how you can see it, but there's a hole there leading down from inside the tree. And when you pull this up, it goes down through a staircase in the roots of the tree, and then there's this little cave, which will eventually, have supplies and beds and all of that. And of course, there is another secret passageway out of it, leading to ground level over to the beach there. And then, of course, there is a secret passageway here that leads towards the evil lair crypt area. But that one's meant to actually be disguised, whereas this one, not from the outside, or it's disguised from the outside, but not from the inside, so. Really like how that came out. It was, one of the questions in my most recent Q&A was, what was my favorite LEGO series? And I still believe that the golden age of LEGO was 1991, where they had 4 factions in the castle. The Forestmen, the Wolf Pack, the Crusaders, and the Black Knights. And so this whole setup is meant to kind of represent that. We haven't gotten to the village yet, but we've got the Forestmen over here with these 2 sets that were based on old Forestmen sets. We've got the Wolf Pack in the caves on the far side. That doesn't really represent anything from their sets, but that's where their hideout is going to be. And in the village, there is a wagon that's based off one of the Wolfpack sets, though I've changed the colors. And then, for those of you who are as old as me or who have done any research into Castle, the main castle is more or less designed to look like a much upscaled version of the old King's Castle. Actually, that's probably before 91, but old castle set, and the whole design of my castle, the rectangular structure of it and all, was designed to look like that. The crossed spears, the fact that it's got the Crusaders inside it. So, yeah, there's a lot of homage and throwback to old LEGO in here, because I'm old and I like LEGO. Alright, now I am getting ready to try something that was recommended by a fan. I mentioned that all sorts of stuff that gets done here are things that people recommended. Somebody recommended that I should try to motorize the planetarium. Have a motor that actually drives the the water wheel that's down in the basement of it. And I'm gonna try it. I don't know if there's gonna be enough room, but I'm hoping there is enough room in this rock section to be able to have the motor, the battery pack, and the gears necessary, because LEGO motors are very high RPM, and I'm gonna need to gear it way down. I'm probably gonna use a worm gear and try to get that down to a reasonable rate so that it rotates that at a nice, slow, steady pace. And we will see if that works. Alright, this is the section that we're going to be working on. It is the basement to the wizard tower, and part of the tunnel, and part of the underground river, and part of the lava room. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but when I moved here, the previous place I lived, I wasn't expecting to move in any hurry, and I built the base of the castle, the whole dungeon undersection, as one solid piece. And that meant that when I went and moved, there was no way to easily take it apart, no way to easily pack it, and so I had to pretty much completely destroy the entire base of the castle. The castle above it, I was able to, take apart and pack, but the base had to pretty much be torn into shreds, and I had to completely rebuild it. And so when I rebuilt it, I did it modular, so that the entire base of the castle comes apart into 9 sections, 32 by 32, and it allows me to take off sections of it to work on, and it makes it so much easier. So if I ever wanted to take this castle to a brick con or something like that, it wouldn't be difficult because I can take it apart and pack it. It would be a pain to do and to set back up, but it wouldn't require me to disassemble anything, which is really nice. So I'm now going to tear into probably this section and try to put a motor and battery pack in there, which I think I'm actually going to be able to do. I found I have no shortage of motors and so forth, and I was able to find a 9-volt battery pack and get it working, and I've got a couple of motors that I'm going to try. I'm going to try the regular motors as well as the low RPM high torque motor and see which one works out better. The goal will be to have a button in the rocks that you push to turn it to activate the motor, and we'll see how that works out, so stay tuned! Well, that took considerably less effort than I thought it would. I was correct. It was entirely possible in this little section of the mountain. You can't see particularly well with the lighting. But that is a 9-volt battery pack. There is one of these slower, higher torque motors, and then some gears. I ended up using a worm gear in order to get enough torque. The button to activate it. I made this little panel come off so in case I need to change the battery. This rock right here is the button. And it turns it on, and now when we come up here, it rotates. It's a little bit jerky just because there is such a long and divided gear train going all the way up the tower, so it kind of shudders a little bit, but I'm okay with that, really. I just think it's ridiculously cool that it's now motorized. Thank you, whoever sent me that suggestion. I think there was more than one of you. It's an excellent suggestion, and I've considered it, and now I've done it. It also meant that I was able to take out the little door that used to swing out here, because since I used a worm gear, you can't rotate it manually anymore. You have to use the motor. So there you have it. That is my updates for the last, I think, 2 weeks. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for your suggestions. More suggestions. There will be more. I will get to the village eventually. I think I mentioned it, but I have embarked on a major redesign of the Moat. So you can see I'm now using a dark tan lower layer to kind of represent wet sand. You can see what it used to look like. It wasn't very detailed. It wasn't very, wasn't a whole lot of shape to it. Now on this section and this section, you can see that there is a great deal more detailing and shape, and there will be eventually going all the way around the moat. The downside is this represents the entirety of that dark sand that I had. I have ordered a whole bunch more, and there will be massive overhaul of the entire moat area, doing more of the details. It will eventually result in the whole village actually being raised up a little bit. Not enough to get basements, but enough to do more landscaping and definitely make the little stream look better. But we'll get to that tour probably later this week. So, once again, thank you for watching.